I, nearly adult female, was in a car accident with my uncle 2 years ago. I have PTSD because of it and tend to flinch now and again if a car comes too fast or close on my left. But I'm getting better about it, and I'm so proud of myself. Anyway, a few weeks ago, my mom, dad, sister, and I were coming home from eating out for dinner. My dad is driving and he's had a few drinks. He wasn't intoxicated, but it still made me feel anxious. Our house is at the end of a winding dirt road. There are also many winding roads to get to the dirt road. A few minutes earlier, I had already told my dad that I felt anxious, but he just brushed me off by saying, okay. When we got to the dirt road, he decided to speed up and try to drift on the turns. I freaked out since it triggered me. I started to shake while crying and hyperventilating. I yelled at my dad to stop, but he had the music really loud and couldn't hear me. My sister noticed and told my dad to stop. When he realized I had a panic attack, he got angry and started yelling at me. He kept saying that he was trying to have fun with his girls and needed to stop because I was dramatic. He also said that he wasn't going fast and that I needed to stop. I couldn't help it, and I kept crying and hyperventilating. Finally, I ran into the house and I was still hyperventilating, so I decided to call my friend Asher, 18 male, and he helped to calm me down. Once I was able to calm my breathing, I began to explain what happened. Asher was angry since he knew that my dad was aware of my anxiety and had seen my panic attacks before. He started comforting me, telling me that I would be 18 soon and I could come to live with him while I finished school. I agreed and made plans to move in with him after my 18th birthday. Somehow, I honestly don't know how my dad found out about Asher asking me to move, and he's not happy. He started yelling at me, saying that if I moved in with Asher, I would essentially be dead to him and that I could no longer have a relationship with my family. He asked me how I could do that to him and that I bashed him to my friend, saying that I made him look like a bad person. He went on to say that I should not have done that and that I shouldn't bash my parents to my friends. He again brought up that I was overdramatic about the situation and that it's been almost 3 years and that I should be over the car crash. He then tells me that he's been in much worse car crashes, even once his car ended up in a canal, and that he is just fine. It makes me think that I am overdramatic and that I shouldn't move in with him. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. OMG, the overdramatic person is him. Also, he's a really crappy father to you right now. It's all about him. How dare you have a panic attack when he's trying to have fun driving tipsy? How dare you talk to your friends about things he did? It's not bashing someone to factually describe their behavior. You don't deserve this. And if you have somewhere to go where people will treat you with love and respect you deserve, please go there as soon as possible. Also, PTSD is not being dramatic. Anyone who threatens to disown you and cut you off from your family because you want to move out when you turn 18, which is one of the main parenting goals, is probably a bad person, and they've just stopped bothering you to hide it. Not the idiot. OP, you didn't make him look like a bad person. He is a bad person, and he managed that all by himself. As someone with PTSD, I totally get the intensity of these anxiety attacks and how it feels not only to be ignored, but also to have it mocked or dismissed by the very person causing them. You're not dramatic, you're smart. OP, your father, sorry, is a tool. People react and deal with things differently. Some get better, some just live with it. I do think you should have a serious conversation with your father and tell him you aren't overdramatic and that you literally cannot help it. He should respect that and offer therapy if you can afford it for both of you. You probably need therapy too to help you get over your trauma. Where's your mother in all of this? Why isn't she sticking up for you? My mother is a whole other issue entirely. She thinks he was insensitive for calling me overdramatic, but instead of venting to people, she says I should write in a journal. This is coming from the woman who vents to me about her marriage issues with my father. For some background, I'm 20. I have 5 little siblings. From as young as I can remember, we were at my grandparents' house more than my own home, and around 13 years old, my parents figured I was old enough to babysit and would leave me to take care of my siblings. And I did. I cooked for them and fed them, potty trained them, bathed them, took them to school, helped with homework, the whole 9 yards. Then, because I was around them more than my parents, my siblings started calling me Mom. I tried to stop them from calling me that, and they wouldn't. So my mom's solution was they call me Mama Name, even though my name would have been just as easy. That was basically how I grew up, taking care of my siblings while my parents were out living a child-free lifestyle, while I was barely passing in school. Granted, I still graduated high school, and I'm going to start college, so I can't complain much. Anyways, my parents had friends over for brunch, and it was one of those days when the twins didn't want to cooperate, so we were going about our day later than usual. Because of that, we had brunch with them. Still, one of the twins wasn't having any of it, and when my mom tried to hold him, it caused a complete meltdown. This went on for quite some time. He kept crying and throwing food. Finally, my mom asked him what he wanted, and he held his hands out towards me and said, "Mama OP." This caused questioning looks, and one of my mom's friends asked why he called me that. And I said, "I don't know, ask my mom." My mom stumbled over her words and left the table, so Dad had them leave. When they were gone, she came out yelling and said I was an idiot for putting her in an uncomfortable position and embarrassing her in front of them. My dad agreed and said what I did was crappy and unnecessary. Am I the idiot? I feel like an idiot for embarrassing her by having her answer. Not the idiot. Well, if it isn't the consequences of her actions. If your mom was embarrassed, it's because she knew she messed up in how she raised her kids. It's not your fault. You're actually your sibling's mom. If people don't want to be embarrassed by the truth, they should not be idiots. I think Mom wasn't embarrassed because of how she raised her kids. She was only embarrassed for having to answer a question about it. OP, it's time for you to move out and focus on your studies. However, if you can't trust your parents with the kids, call CPS. They won't remove the kids first thing. They might get your parents some much-needed parenting classes. Not the idiot, OP. Those questioning looks you saw mean that your mom's friends already knew exactly what was going on when your baby sibling reached for Mama OP. Your mom's friend was asking for an explanation, and you were right to direct that question to your mom to answer. You've been a parent for years. That's on them. You've done nothing to be ashamed of. Instead, you've spared 5 children from being unloved and neglected while you were still a child yourself. I admire and respect you 100%. You are a hero. Things were tense when my husband first met my kids 4 years ago. Sarah, young teen, and Jonathan, nearly adult. Although my husband loved them instantly, Jonathan decided to make it hard and influenced Sarah to do the same. He treated my husband poorly, called him the guy Mom married, broke, thrown his stuff, and shut him out when he tried to get close. We got family therapy, but Jonathan refused and tried to stop Sarah from going. Sarah was hesitant, saying she promised Jonathan not to do what her stepdad wanted and was afraid he'd get angry. She then attended therapy, and things started working out between her and my husband. They got close, which upset Jonathan, who tried giving Sarah, didn't know then, punishments for betraying his orders. We tried getting Jonathan into therapy again, but my ex defended his decision and demanded we leave it alone. Things have calmed down. Then yesterday morning at 8, Sarah rushed into the kitchen where I washed glasses while Jonathan and my husband were sitting having breakfast. She was looking for her phone charger, but didn't find it in her room. So she quickly turned her face towards my husband and said, "Dad, Jonathan, have you guys seen my phone charger?" My husband, Jonathan, and I all paused. This was her first time calling him Dad, and it came unexpectedly and naturally. My husband tried to answer, but was too overwhelmed to speak. His eyes got teary. He couldn't hide it even when he tried. Sarah didn't even notice. She just rushed out to keep looking. Jonathan followed her. My husband bit his lip and kept looking at me, then started crying. I was genuinely smiling, which was awful since he was a crying mess, but I was just so happy for him. Then I heard a noise coming from upstairs. It was Jonathan yelling at Sarah for calling her stepdad Dad. He punished her by throwing her phone and breaking it. She cried, telling him to leave her alone, but he kept yelling, saying she betrayed their real dad and called this guy Dad. I got involved and asked him why he had broken Sarah's phone. He called her a traitor, but I replied my husband did nothing to treat him this way, and his behavior was out of line. I said he either respects this household, his stepdad, his sister, and me, or goes to stay with his dad, until he agrees to get therapy and change his behavior. I contacted my ex, saying Jonathan will stay with him for now and therapy's in order since I can't let him intimidate Sarah, especially after Sarah told me she's afraid of him. My ex fought with me, saying I chose a guy over my own son, typical. He got his family involved, and they all called me cruel for kicking Jonathan out of his own home, even after I explained how he's been treating his sister. I gave him options: get therapy or stay with his dad. No one seems to agree with me, but I think no one else is seeing, or maybe they're turning a blind eye, how Jonathan has been mistreating his sister. She needs to feel safe in her own home and express herself without being punished or intimidated by her older brother. Not the idiot. Your son is awful towards your daughter. You are not picking your husband over your son. You are protecting your daughter from your son. And maybe it's for the best that he stays with his dad if he finds your husband so offensive to the point where he acts out like this. Your ex is also partially to blame for enjoying the mistreatment your son dishes out to members of the household due to his dislike of you remarrying. I understand he's hurt, but that doesn't give him a right to destroy or break property that doesn't belong solely to him. Therapy or move to dad's sounds pretty darn reasonable, in my opinion. I bet this has been festering a long time, and ex and his family have been egging the son on, which will likely only continue if he goes to live with him. It's such a shame the ex thinks his ego is more important than his son, who has been struggling and could use support from family instead of poison. Not the idiot. The issue I see isn't between your son and your husband, but between your son and your daughter, who he thinks he actually has authority to punish. But I'm not a therapist who would have the training to see what the issue is. I think everyone would be doing your son a disservice if they framed this as bio dad versus the man that turned his mama on. Your son has issues that need to be addressed wherever he lives. Not the idiot. No offense, but your son is power hungry. He shouldn't go to his dad's. He needs to go to freaking boot camp or the Maury show, because today it was her phone. Tomorrow it might be her skull. Just do whatever you can to stop him from abusing your daughter and husband. It sounds like you'd all be better off without him around. Then your daughter and husband's relationship can finally grow the way it was supposed to all along, and your son can go off and be a miserable little brat all by himself. My boyfriend and I have been together since we were in university. We're both 23 and recently moved in together. We both went to our local university, so we both lived at home so we'd be able to save money. Around a year after we started dating, my boyfriend got a German Shepherd puppy. I've never been a fan of German Shepherds, but I am a dog lover, so I wasn't going to tell him not to get one when we weren't living together yet. When we moved in, my dislike of German Shepherds was confirmed. The dog leaves hair all over the place, barks whenever someone walks by our house, needs extreme amounts of exercise. I could go on for hours. However, I was willing to put up with it since my boyfriend had otherwise trained him well. I now realize how stupid that was, since the dog breed seems to have problems regardless of how well trained. However, I recently got a Rottweiler puppy, and to say that I formed a bond with him would be an understatement. The German Shepherd, on the other hand, didn't take kindly to the puppy and would make its disdain for the dog known. My boyfriend and I took the dog to the vet to see where the issue could come from, and she told us that some German Shepherds just don't get on with other dogs. My boyfriend suggested that we may have to rehome my Rottweiler puppy due to the German Shepherd's disdain of him, and he could still find a good home since he was only 5 months old. The thought of rehoming something I love for a dog I couldn't stand mortified me, and to think that the only reason for rehoming him would be because of another dog's nasty behavior didn't make the situation any better. I told my boyfriend that there was no way I was rehoming my puppy and that I'd be willing to move out if need be. After days of arguing, my boyfriend took the dog to the local shelter. The house has been much quieter since, and I can honestly say it was one of the best decisions I ever made. On the other hand, my sister didn't hold this sentiment and referred to me as an evil witch to put my boyfriend in this position. Am I the idiot? So your solution to a dog problem in your home is to get another dog? You are the idiot, and I feel bad for your boyfriend that he didn't have the backbone to break up with you. He's never going to forgive you for forcing him to get rid of his dog. You might as well break up with him and tell him to get his dog back, because you just killed any chances of this relationship turning into something more. He will bury his resentment for a while, but eventually he's going to bail. You're just wasting each other's time right now. The thought of rehoming something I love mortified me. Yeah, I bet your boyfriend feels the same about his dog. It would be best if you moved out and get his dog back for him. You are the idiot and selfish to boot. That poor guy and that poor dog. OP, stating the best decision she's ever made, used an ultimatum to make her boyfriend choose between her and his dog, is the cherry on top of this witch cake. I can't imagine being so selfish that you'd feel making your boyfriend rehome a dog he's loved and raised for God knows how long is something to be happy about, let alone one of the best things you've done. I wouldn't be surprised if she just used the puppy as a way to get him to rehome his dog. Her comments prove she doesn't know anything about dog breeds or raising a puppy, and she's not prepared for one. My husband and I have been fostering little Maya and Juliana for almost 2 years and are in the process of adopting them. Maya's and Juliana's first language is Spanish, and both girls are more comfortable speaking Spanish than English and prefer to speak Spanish when they're with us. I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I can usually speak to the girls in Spanish without any problems. On the other hand, my husband didn't know any Spanish when he first started fostering them, and he doesn't want the girls to speak Spanish at home. We agreed that they'd speak English around him, but they could still speak whatever language they wanted to me and to each other. This worked for a while, but lately he's been getting frustrated if he hears me talk to them in Spanish. The girls have copies of most of their books in both English and Spanish. Saturday, I took them out for a girls' day, and we got our nails done, went out to eat, and went shopping. When we returned, the Spanish copies of their books were in a bag in front of the front door. So I asked my husband about it, and he said he gave them away on Buy Nothing since the girls have the same books in English and don't need 2 copies. I took the girls to their room to put their books and new toys and dresses away and started to get them ready for bed. We were out a little late, so it was almost their bedtime. After they were asleep, my husband and I got into a massive argument over him trying to give away their books. He thinks it was justified because he doesn't speak Spanish and says it shouldn't be spoken in the house. So he's now sleeping in the guest room, and we're not speaking except about the girls. Not the idiot. Your husband is, though. Your daughter's first language is Spanish, and it's an important and valuable part of their heritage. He should be trying to learn the language himself, not taking their culture away from them. It's rooted in the husband's controlling attitude. It's not about the inconvenience. He can't understand what's going on, and he can't control his wife and kids. He only started with this stuff now because he thinks she won't leave him now that they're so close to adopting the kids. Yeah, geez. Is he foster adopting or colonizing these girls? Massive yikes. So not the idiot. Your husband is a tool. I know languages can be hard, but he's not making any effort. And because he doesn't like it, he has unilaterally decided it would be abolished? Tread carefully here. What your husband is doing can be detrimental to your foster children. It's one thing to be stubborn and not learn Spanish. It's another to abolish it and remove traces of it.